Um, we are holding this meeting by Zoom platform in accordance with H681, Section 6, and because there is no place available to safely have an in-person meeting. And so we have posted the agenda and warning in the Bennington Banner and on Front Porch Forum, and with the computer link so that people can come on, as well as there is a phone number for those who wish to call in. And that number is 929-205-6099. And I will, let's see here. I'm going to share my agenda with the screen share. I think people should be seeing my agenda. Is that correct? Okay. And so if there is a call-in number here, it's a New York number, but I mean, that's the best we can do with Zoom. Hopefully people aren't really charged long distance as much anymore. So that's the call-in number, and this is the Zoom link here. So I'd like to start the meeting by review and approve the minutes for our meeting from March 9th, 2021. Did the trustees have an opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any questions or changes to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, so moved. And is there any objection to that motion? I'm just going to look through the screens to make sure that I don't have anybody waving at me. No? Okay. Very good. Without objection, by our rules that we've adopted, without objection, that motion carries unanimously. And we will also review the monthly warrants and payment of our bills and our two different types of warrants. And I think I can share that one as well. Let's see if I have that handy. Did the trustees have an opportunity to review? Let's see, let's start with let's just do the payroll warrant first. Review the payroll warrant. And that's in the total amount of $8,841.83. Are there any questions on that or changes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the payroll.
Okay. Very good. And is there any objection to approval of that motion and payment of $8,841.83? Without objection, that motion carries unanimously. And we will also let's see, that's it. The Excel just takes a little longer to open up. There we go. So this one's a little smaller. I think I can get it bigger. So we have April warrant in the amount of $21,903.13. Any comment, Mary, on the?
There was nothing really all that unusual. There was once a year, we pay the NEMRC bill, that's in there, NEMRC. That's only a once a year thing.
Okay.
Everything else was pretty standard.
All righty.
Barry,
Yes,
what was the Lawson products right there?
oh, they were, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were, I believe, either cleaning supplies or paper goods. I think it was a bunch of paper towels and things like that.
Yeah, that's correct. But there were some other little minor nuts and bolts things.
Okay,
Strip ties. Yeah, so it was a mixture of several invoices. And it was for the highway department.
yeah. But I think that, yeah, and yeah, there
it is.
they are. Oh, it was the Zepp that had all the towels and things.
So this is it. So these, it looks, Matt, like they're more expensive hydraulic parts, it looks like.
Yeah.
So
Looks
if
like
I can,
maybe-
If you move one more column, you'll see what each individual line was.
to
Because like Lori said, there were a couple of invoices.
oh, here. Where?
No,
Move
I
over to
think,
column G.
Oh, oh yeah, here you mean?
Yeah. So
Right.
there you can see that it's one invoice, but I mean, it's a number of different.
Yeah.
Like Lori said, it's smaller things.
looks like maybe it's even a hydraulic, a tool to make his own hydraulic hoses.
Norm would have to ask. Oh, while you're there, you can note that I meant to note that the Carrot Top, that's an unusual one. We haven't paid them for quite a while. That's a whole bunch of flags.
Okay.
I think there were 15 of one size and then there were a couple of another size and one or two of another size.
Flags of what?
US flags.
For Main Street.
Great.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Motion's been, Mark, did you already make that motion?
Now, yes, I'll move to approve
Okay,
the payroll.
all right, it's been moved in the amount of $21,903.13. Is there any objection to approving that motion?
Nope.
I see no objection and the motion so carried. Okay. Is there any, Mary, we can circle back to a full treasurer's report, but is there anything that you would like to comment on before we get to a couple of comments that are waiting?
I'm happy to wait.
Okay. All right, and I think the first order of business that I'd like to take care of is we have a guest. We have Bill Strecker as a guest from Arson Warehouse Skateboards in Manchester, Vermont, who has put a request to the board to use the North Bennington Skate Park for a summer camp relating to skateboarding. And I guess I'll say action sports, but I don't know if is it just skateboarding, Bill, or other things as well?
We focus just on skateboarding.
Great. So welcome and thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it and appreciate you thinking about our park and our kids here in North Bennington. So I'll let you I guess if you want to just make the request, I don't think there's really any, we don't have to make a motion or approve anything formally, but it would be nice to just hear from you and what your idea is, and then we can just take it from there.
I really appreciate that, John. Thank y'all, and thank you guys for having me here. I'll give you just a little bit of history of how we got here, and then what maybe we can do in town with you guys. I'm from Southern Vermont myself, from Wyndham, and I grew up here as a kid, and then at some point went to South Florida for a long time, and that's where I actually worked in my first shop in college. They gave me a design job. It was great, a big shop on the beach that they're still around and very relevant in the industry with skateboarding and surfing and things. But came back here about 10 years ago, and right about as I came back in, I got on a committee for the skate park in Manchester. The ramps were wooden and on that old basketball court and kind of a little dilapidated. And at that point, I've been skateboarding, since I'm 13, 14 years old. And at that point, I was 35, right? And still no kids yet at that point. You hear them now. But, no kids at that point. That was just my sport to get exercise after I was a designer at the Vermont Country Store, then the creative manager over at Vermont Law School for a while. So that's just my sport. So I think, we're at the generation now where it isn't just a bunch of kids. It is some older people. It kind of encompasses a lot of things, but 8 years later, we got that park in Manchester and we got the first phase, and it looks more like a sculpture park than ramps on a lot or anything. It gets used sun up to sundown, and I didn't want an outlet to open up in Manchester, so I opened up a shop. I quit my 9 to 5. My kids were real young and been able to spend a little more time with them. But regardless, we've been able to do these camps, do these clinics, and use the park to its fullest, right? And people are out there using the facilities that the town has provided, and it's kind of created. People have said we hadn't come to Manchester really, but now they have the park and we come to your shop and we go to the Mountain Goat and Cilantro. So I think it does kind of brings families around, and it gets things going. So we just started back, and we're lucky with skateboarding also. Right. You by nature stand 6 feet away to do it from somebody, and you can teach somebody what to do a few feet away, right? So we were very lucky throughout this whole thing to still be able to kind of run our camps and clinics and make sure we followed all the protocol, masked up in town as we walked over, and then everyone's spread out and we're feeling good. We want to meet parents where they're at with all that, but we absolutely follow all the protocols, set by the governor and everything like that. I think everyone's real happy with how we've been treating that. But if we know that facility's down there, and I have only had one other employee for quite a while. His name's Matt Horan, but he's from the area, lives in North Bennington, goes to that park all the time as an older gentleman, 30 or so, and just he uses it. So we have he's told me what a great resource it is, and I've been there myself. So if we'd be willing to, I would love to offer camps for the summer, and I have a little schedule worked out we can share with you guys. And, we just we're in the middle of a spring break camp here right now. So, we have five kids here at our spring break camp from 9 to 3. And we have some great counselors. So I have one or two, really, really nice, gentle guys and some ladies that help us teach and in the area. But if you guys would be willing to maybe just even consider it, I'd be appreciative.
So, Mark, as the parks coordinator, would you be willing to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, no, like I said, the reason why we do things like the park is so we get people down here using them. And our park again that's fairly well used. One of my running routes is by our skate park, and there are always several people out there using it. I guess the couple of questions I would have would just relate to, how does that affect daily use because ours is, I've seen the one in Manchester, but I can't remember exactly the size. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the one we have in North Bennington. It's a relatively small area. So if we're running camps there, depending on the amount of time during the day, Would it be shut down to your recreational user? How often you would run the camp? So just kind of the logistics and how it would impact just the normal daily use that we already get there. Would be really I mean, I love the idea of getting something formal there, as long as it, fits kind of my motto of, our parks are there for people to use whenever they want to use them, with the rare occasion of shutting it down for something like you're running. But just kind of the logistics piece would all I'd really be interested in.
Sure, sure. Absolutely still open to the public while we do things, and we're real, we never want to exhaust our presence anywhere. Like, we want to add to it. If it does get busy though, the thing with our camps, we have a bunch of other activities we do. We do some art things where we like create some skateboards, shape them out, we cut them out and do some things there. I mean, I believe you guys are on the back of another park. Is that right? I mean, at least the lake is, or so there's probably at least some walks or nature walks. We break it up, and if there's a field nearby, we break it up and play some ball or something. So we do. We break it down to a couple sessions, but always open to the public. Always, I think that's part of it. I think that definitely should be part of it. And then when we notice there's people, we hold back, and sometimes we'll even go over to a tennis court or a basketball court that's not being used with our guys. We'll do that quite a lot, and we'll utilize sometimes even the MEMS. We'll go over back to the MEMS parking lot or something like that, or to one of their basketball courts that's just kind of empty if it gets real crowded. But that's rare, But we do that too, So I think open to the public, and I don't anticipate, that that many people, but we like to make sure, like you said, open to everybody all the time, right?
Great, awesome. Yeah, and I would love to. I mean, I'd be happy to, swap contact information, and I'd be happy to be the point person once you start kind of getting dates and everything else together, just so we can, make sure that we're putting word out there that it is happening, and also, just so the general community understands what's going on. So, but at some point we'll swap information, and yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. Any help I could be would be great.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, and I have Bill's info, and I'll loop you into that and an email or two that Lori and I had said. And Tara, I see you had a question as well.
Yep, I was just wondering if the trustees could have a copy of the insurance you carry for the camp. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have camp insurance for sure, and then even the way, and I'll show you our waiver and things like that. So, yep,
Perfect.
we can get that to you definitely.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, any other questions for Bill? All right, so as I said, it doesn't require any formal motion. I think that, Bill's just looking for a general okay from us, that it wasn't, something that we would be against, or that, that wouldn't work for some reason. But I don't think this requires any formal approval. It's just, we'll leave it to be coordinated between Bill and scheduling with Mark.
One concern I would have is, we do have policy regarding profit ventures on town property.
Okay.
I think that's kind of if they're looking to have sole use. So if it's just them, I that's one of the things that popped in my head until he said that it wouldn't really be a reserving it and closing it down to the public. And with it being outside, but you're right, that we should definitely have a conversation as to, just so we are consistent on how we're going to do that. But I guess my initial feeling was that if he's not really asking to have sole use of the skate park, but work out something that makes it
I think it's
worthwhile.
reasonable, but I want to make sure that it's not, not in violation of the policy, but also just, sometimes, I guess I just want to make sure that that's all. And that might require a discussion with our lawyer.
I don't know. Bill, has it been a money-making venture for you?
Barely, no, it's not any, it brings people to my shop, really, the parents and things, and then I just, I have enough to pay the guys, and it's helpful a bit. But no, and with that being said, I mean, I understand your concerns right off the bat. I mean, and also, there's something very special about Vermont and our small towns and like exploiting them, right? There's something about that too that you don't want. We're not trying to do that, but no, it's not a huge moneymaker, right? We pay the guys, we make sure they have healthy snacks. It helps. It's really just gets me through these months that are, it makes it a viable resource for me, right? I'm realizing, I'm only not even my second year into the shop, so I'm realizing though that the camps were a big part of it. But what it did is just created awareness, and it created some activity around what was going on. So and hopefully it does that for the town, and I'm definitely willing to see if that works better as a partnership or something like that. Like that's what I'm totally open to those talks, with you guys to see that we're all our needs are there and being met and everything.
Yeah. So Matthew, one of the ways we handled that back when I was running the helping out with a soccer camp that we did in Shaftesbury, and when I was running the youth leagues there, they were always asking for money, and I always refused to pay. But what I did always offer was, if we are going to use that, and this is something maybe we can work out with Bill as well, because we really don't have anybody around that is really knowledgeable about the park. In trade-off, he could certainly be an asset in terms of just having somebody that we could always pick his brain. But also, if he's going to do it, we would always trade off with Howard Park, or excuse me, what's that? Howard Park, yeah, in Shaftesbury. We would always do projects there to benefit the park. So when I wouldn't pay them to use the field for our soccer use, but I would bring 20 parents there, and we would do cleanup. We would help out around the park and pick a project every year that benefited the park. That didn't cost us any money, because again, same as Bill's little venture, we didn't make any money. We basically covered costs, but we're doing a good thing. So, but we realized that we should be, if we're benefiting from the facility at all, we should be giving back to that. And a lot of times money just isn't feasible for something so small. So, in lieu of an actual payment, and again, we can have this conversation, but maybe a project where he brings, and he can always use it as part of the camp. So part of our camp is going to be, when we get together with the kids, we'll clean up the backside of the hill for sledding and things like that. So just a thought.
Okay. Aaron had another question, and then we're going to have to try to wrap up just because we have a tight agenda tonight, but go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, just a quick idea. I mean, I'm wondering if maybe you might consider, I don't know how much you're thinking of charging, but maybe a scholarship or two for local kids that, may just not have the money to pay for it. So maybe that's a way.
Absolutely, and always make sure we're there. I mean, that's accessibility is huge, right? We're not, and skateboarding at its core is we always want to make sure that's an accessible thing.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Bill, and I'll make sure to send that email to you and Mark to get you connected.
I appreciate your all's time. Really, really, really a pleasure. I look forward to seeing what we can do here.
Yeah, good to meet you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks so much.
All right. So the next order of business that we have tonight is we are going to hear from Department of Environmental Conservation, and we're going to talk about the proposed groundwater reclassification here in North Bennington and Bennington as a result of the PFOA contamination. And so I would welcome Peter Walk as representative from the department, and thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate that. And Chuck Schwer is also with us, John Schmeltzer and Richard Spees as well.
And John Beeling as well. We have quite the crew here with you today. Happy to be here to talk about it. I know there's been a lot of questions from the community. We want to make sure we were here to answer those questions and provide a little bit more information, at least, help provide you with some of that information. And if it works, to have you send us questions that you're hearing from the community so that we can be a resource as this moves forward. I will share some slides in a moment, but just want to start with the fact that this is, because of what we've heard from the community and the desire for more discussion about this, we have extended the public comment period on the draft reclassification till the 28th of May. Yesterday we spent the evening with the Bennington Select Board, and next Monday will be with the Shaftesbury Select Board, as it does continue into Shaftesbury some as well. And then once we wrap these and we get a sense of what the questions are, we will do another public meeting for everybody to ask questions and make comments on the reclassification. So plenty more opportunity for folks to engage. I just wanted to get started there. So let me throw up some slides if I can. Just help to. You have to forgive me. We're going back and forth between Microsoft Teams and Zoom is sometimes a bit of a mental challenge, and it's 7:30 and we've been doing this for a while already today. So here we go. Let's see. All right, can everybody see that? Those slides.
Yes, we can, Peter.
Great. All right, so just want to remind everybody, I don't think you all need this reminder. You've lived this experience, but since the PFOA was discovered in wells in 2016 near the former Fab sites, we've been working both in emergency response mode and in trying to make sure that we have long-term systems in place, both through the work that the state has done and through settlement negotiations with Saint-Gobain. And as part of that process, we worked to extend water lines as far as we could and then work to find additional solutions for those where water lines weren't going to be able to be extended. As part of the settlement agreement, we agreed to reclassify the groundwater. Our options on how to reclassify the groundwater are limited by state statute and present certainly some wording challenges, if nothing more, and also some real challenges in trying to understand it. And we just want to help kind of work through those pieces. So just as a reminder, you're seeing the waterline work on the ground now. It's mostly done at this point. Of the 480 residences and businesses that were eligible for connection, 438 have agreed to, and of those, 365 are connected. We expect the work to finish this summer. For those individual wells, in the area where we have been testing and where wells have been below the 20 parts per trillion standard, that Saint-Gobain is required to continue to monitor those wells until such a time as the groundwater proves not to have PFOA in it. In those systems or those water systems in people's homes where they have the point of entry treatment systems, Saint-Gobain is obligated to monitor those until their wells are free of PFOA as well. As part of that process, Saint-Gobain has drilled and installed 5 replacement wells, which helps us understand what we're doing with the reclass and the advice that we're providing. As part of this work, we are also implementing what we call an institutional control, which is a way we ensure for the long-term protective health of the community, because in many instances, a full cleanup of a contaminant isn't feasible. So in this instance, there's groundwater contamination throughout the area, and it's not possible to remove the soil down to a sufficient level. There would be nothing left of the community at that point. And so we work to ensure that there are legal controls in place that protect public So that's what the groundwater reclassification really does to ensure that people are protected moving forward. Again, we also, as part of the settlement, Saint-Gobain is obligated to review the corrective action plan every 5 years to determine whether it's appropriate, whether additional actions might be necessary or warranted. And so that is a good opportunity for us to test the things that we've been doing and see if different actions are required. Again, Saint-Gobain is obligated to ensure existing water supplies have potable water in areas not connected by that ongoing monitoring and the maintaining the treatment systems. And it's a task that exists for Saint-Gobain until there's sufficient evidence that underlying groundwater is clean. That is, we anticipate significantly into the future. The groundwater reclassification gives us a sort of 5+ year window to make sure that if we think somebody is going to be there for longer than 5 years, so we can maintain and have that future protection. It's our belief that it will be much more likely closer to decades into the future that the PFOA and other PFAS chemicals will still exist. And so it's important to have these protection measures in place. So again, protecting human health, that is our goal. We are working to ensure that that all of the current and future wells are protected from PFAS chemicals. So then one of the things that we're working on, and this is what the reclassification does, is really about sort of future use of new water supply wells. It gives landowners, well drillers, and permitting agencies the sort of clarity around what the expectations are. And it provides criteria and restrictions for drilling new drinking water wells within the reclassification area. And some of the things that we want to make sure that we are reflecting back to the community that we're hearing is that portable groundwater is available within the proposed area. You saw those 140+ wells of tested below standards for PFAS. That means that there is potable water there. This is really about new sources and ensuring that we can say that what we know, which is that the shallow groundwater is contaminated pretty much throughout the region. And so, and there are deeper wells that are also contaminated, but that sort of overburden layer is heavily contaminated. We want to make sure that if people do need to drill new wells, that we set the criteria to make sure that they have the best chance of getting a PFOA free well. So as I mentioned, 140+. We know that in many areas where water lines are not accessible, that drilling a new well on a new piece of property or a subdivided piece of property is going to be the only option. And so that's really setting those criteria in place. And then the one thing to make sure that that we're all clear on is any new well that Saint-Gobain is obligated to test that. And if there were to be found to be PFOA or PFAS in it, then they would be obligated to treat and to provide bottled water first, and then see what the solution for that well might be, whether it's treatment or connecting to the home to a water line or what have you. So it's an ongoing obligation. We do understand that that this is a challenge. It creates a question of whether or not there's an impact on people's property values and what that means. And certainly we want to be cognizant of that and want to be aware of those things. I think what we would reflect back is that we have seen generally the issue of the fact that the site as a whole is contaminated tends to be the challenge, not necessarily the controls that are put into place. The controls help to provide certainty. And I would just remind you that that while the state is working hard to make sure that the groundwater is clean and that we're providing clean drinking water, it's really the class action suit that is really responsible for the economic well-being of the of the community, right? Whether or not the people are made whole because of the contamination. And so that's really where loss of property value comes primarily into play. But we do want to be clear with everybody that there's a likelihood that if a new well is required to be drilled, or that for somebody needs a new well, that there will be additional costs associated with complying. So make sure that we get down to that cleaner bedrock water. So with that, I'm happy to take questions from the board. We have a slew of experts here. You obviously all know John and Richard and Chuck have been down here every step of the way, and we wish we could be there with you in person, but virtually does save us the drive back up north. So we appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate, I know that you always have made the trip down, so it is nice though that you don't have to have the drive down.
I just hang out with Shaftesbury friends, since I'm a former Shaftesbury resident, so it works out nice.
That's awesome. So I guess I had a couple questions, but I'll open it up to the board as well. So it sounds like most of the issues or the things that I had concerns of, you've addressed already, but I had a couple of things just kind of on the outside there. I mean, one of the main concerns was, for those people that are not able to connect to a municipal water line, would that leave them out in the cold? But it sounds like what you're saying is that their POET systems are required to be continually monitored by Saint-Gobain, and that I was happy to hear. I didn't realize that there had been an agreement on that, but it's not for a period of years or something. It's just until there's no more PFOA in the well. So that's great to hear. And I guess the other thing is so does this apply on a new parcel as well, or just existing homes or existing residences? So if somebody subdivided, or if there was an empty piece of land that was purchased that somebody wanted to build on, that I'm assuming that Saint-Gobain becomes involved in that just because, of the settlement with the state.
John, that's a great question. So the reclassification actually doesn't have any impact on existing wells, right? People are working with the status of their well that they have. If they're PFOA free at this point or below standards, then they're going to continue to be monitored. If they're operating on a POET, then that will continue to be maintained and regularly monitored. If a new parcel was subdivided and the only option, if they weren't next to the village's water system, and so the only option was to drill a well, the homeowner would be responsible, as they would be now, for drilling a well. They'd have to meet this new specifications, and then Saint-Gobain would be obligated to test that well because it's within the area. And then if it was seen to be contaminated, then that's when the sort of other steps would come into play that Saint-Gobain would be obligated to do.
So do they have enough, if somebody does that, drills a well, and then they find PFOA, which they're likely to do, I would think, what option does Saint-Gobain have at that point to direct what their next step is? Like, does the person have the option to say, well, I'd like to drill a second well at a different site? Or does Saint-Gobain just say, no, we're just going to put in a POET and you're going to be all set?
Well, so John or Richard, jump in, and I'm going to try to explain this in layman's terms, and I may get this wrong. But essentially, the well drilling standards that are put into place as part of the reclassification are the best chance that we have of finding clean water on a site. And so if that doesn't reach clean water and they followed all of the specifications, then it's unlikely that they're going to on their site.
Okay.
And so then we really go into what are our other options. Are there water lines reasonably nearby? Does it make sense to treat in perpetuity was, what are the sort of options at that point? So that's really where we would go from there.
Any other?
Apparently I didn't get it wrong enough that they want to jump in.
Peter, what, so then whose responsibility? So I don't know what the new specifications are for drilling. I mean, are we talking 900-foot wells, punching through bedrock, limestone, granite, whatever there is? Or, which would be at a greater cost, of course, to the new homeowner or subdivision lot owner than it would have been if they were drilling a 200-foot well in in glacial till or whatever. So is there any compensation for that part, or do these new standards create a new level of expense for that that new property owner? That's my first part of the question.
So the answer to the question is, yeah, that those costs would be borne by the landowner, yes.
Okay, and then if following all those new standards, they let's say they find clean water, which would be great. Is there any monitoring of that to determine if that water stays clean as this chemical moves through the aquifer? Or?
Yes, they would be subject to the same long-term monitoring that the other wells that were below standards were.
And if they find PFOA at all, or I guess, what's the action point for St. Gobain to install the POET systems?
So it's the same as Vermont's drinking water standard, which is 20 parts per trillion combined of 5 different PFAS compounds.
And if this new lot is within, what was the 200 feet of the existing water lines, who is responsible for getting that water to them?
So just as you would be now, if you're next to a water line and you want to connect, that was beyond the landowner to connect to that water line. If it was done as a treatment solution or as a clean drinking water solution, if PFOA free water wasn't able to be provided, then St. Gobain would do that work. But we want the long-term, the best of the options in terms of long-term clarity is those extended water lines. And so we want to make sure that where that's an option, we can do that.
But it seems to me that wasn't an option had already been dealt with, because there are existing homes where it was determined it was prohibitively expensive or caused issues with stale water in a non-looping system or this and that.
Yep.
So do you foresee, it seems like you're saying, well, we brought water to everybody we can, and now it's possible that maybe St. Gobain will say, well, if my option is monitoring this well forever or putting a line in, they might then decide it's more cost effective to do that.
So this is where that 5-year review comes into play. If the conditions on the ground were to change significantly, so that if St. Gobain were monitoring and maintaining a significant number of POETs out a stretch of homes that weren't previously connected, they may reconsider that approach.
I see.
St. Gobain's consultant estimated that the PFOA would remain in the groundwater a significantly shorter period of time than we think it's going to. And so if that were to occur, then then they have made that they're unlikely to extend water lines because people's drinking water will be cleaner sooner.
They've planted a flag on that idea that they would save money by maintaining 5, 8, 10 poets in new development. Then
Well, so right now they're maintaining about what I think it's 33 homes on current poet systems, and then any new ones that were to come up would be added to that. Because we know your communities aren't stagnant. You're changing, you're growing. People are subdividing land with
not as
some
much,
level of freedom.
not as much as you think, but
Well, the village
Peter,
is relatively tight.
Peter, this is Richard. You've got it perfectly, but maybe if I say it a different way, that might help Matt
thank you.
understand better. Based on the 2017 and 2019 settlements and our communications with the community, we understood that the hierarchy for options that people were most happy with was first connecting to municipal water. Second, where possible, drilling a replacement well to try and find deeper, cleaner water, which we've done 5 of them so far in the North Bennington area. We actually completed another one last week, but we don't have any sampling results yet. And they're actually doing it yet another one right on the Shaftesbury North Bennington line or Bennington line this week. So that work is ongoing, and John and I are receiving plans for other properties in other parts of Bennington for that type of evaluation. And then lastly, where you can't connect to municipal water or find clean water by drilling a new well, your option would be long-term poet treatment. So there's nothing in the groundwater reclassification that changes that hierarchy. That's the hierarchy that we think people are happiest with. And so that if someone drilled a new well, they're not close to a water line. And so that may not be a good option for that particular property that's being redeveloped or developed. We've tried to they've drilled a new well using pretty much the specifications that we're using with these replacement wells that we've installed around North Bennington. And as I think Peter said, and John has alluded to, done 5 of them, they've been successful. This appears to work fairly well, but there's never a guarantee. So then if neither of those works, Saint-Gobain is still obliged to do that evaluation, but it's probably not going to be likely that those are the options. And therefore, the only long-term option that's left is to put a poet on and maintain that until the well cleans up at some time in the future. So I don't know if that clarifies things, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
It helps. Richard, so the wells that you have done to the new standard have been free of PFOA?
Yes, one of them, the first 2 times we sampled it, had very low levels. That was up on River Road, but then that cleared up. It may have been water that was drawn down during the drilling process itself. Yep. And the last, John, you can probably correct me, you have a better memory for these things, but I think they've been sampled 6 or 7 times since then, and they've all been non-detect.
No, you are correct. Got it.
And they are cased all the way?
So they're cased about 100 to 150 feet. John knows the specifications better than I think it's 50 feet into competent bedrock or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah, they grouted in there, and that's the additional cost, is that grouting process. And I think, John, again, you probably know better than I, so maybe you should be speaking, but I think the additional costs are maybe around $10,000 for.
It's hard to know because it does vary about how much the casing is and how much you grout, but it is hard to say depending on what that amount is, but it is more. There's no question about that.
And what Peter was saying was that this extra cost, which is the homeowner's expense, is part of what the class action suit would deal with instead of any sort of immediate compensation from Saint-Gobain. In other words, the homeowner is just responsible to dig their well as they would anytime they want to, but now they have to meet a new standard, and that's going to be more significant. I mean, you can dig a well for $4 or $5 grand, but if it's 10 or 15, now you're looking at that differential. Is that all going to the class action instead of something more immediate?
So I think I may have led you slightly astray there, Matt. What I'm saying is that is a sort of change in the value of the property, right? So that it costs more to develop that parcel. And that is the area of where the class action suit is looking to deal with. In terms of a specific
Right.
pot of funds to help with that work, I would not anticipate that happening, but it would, that could be a factor that was considered in that suit.
That's the way I understand it. But yeah, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, what we can say with certainty is we don't have anything in our settlement agreement to address that issue.
Thank you.
So the trustees, of course, can chime in as they wish to here. I'm not the only trustee on this, so please feel free, but I would like to open this up to comments from the public. Obviously, that's really important to us. We have a couple of guests tonight. Representative Whitman, would you like to start us off, or do you have a comment to make?
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, Dane Whitman, representative at the state, newly elected for the North Bennington district. Good to see everybody from the DEC. Gonna put on my headphones and might help with audio stuff. Putting me on the spot, John. 1 second. Good to see everybody. So state representative and also a citizen of North Bennington. So have a couple different questions lined up. I guess one would be going back to the new parcel question. Would you essentially have to drill a well, or could you go ahead and say, I don't even want to, roll the dice. I just want a POET system. And then would St. Gobain, would that be within the settlement?
So no, it wouldn't, because part of the reclassification is to essentially, we know from our studies around that the shallow groundwater is contaminated. And so what you would likely be doing is accessing, or at least connecting those groundwater if you were trying to go deeper without following those standards. And so that is not what we want to see. That's what we want to preclude people from doing, but so that their health is protected long into the future, when those of us who have lived and breathed this more intimately are gone, and the next generations know what the rules are to make sure that they're protected too.
Great, thank you. And I have a couple questions. So I suppose the reclassification, let me just ask quickly, if you are already connected to municipal water, is there any change there for somebody who was connected before 2016, continues to be connected, but now there's a reclassification in place? Is there any impact on one of those properties?
Not if they're connected to drinking water or the water lines currently. No, they shouldn't be impacted.
Great. Are there any changes to like agricultural, community garden kind of guidelines as a result of the reclassification?
John or Richard, you want to speak to just sort of the one of the pieces around in working with the Agency of Agriculture to understand sort of best practices for managing that water use by livestock and others. But John or Richard, if you want to say more.
You want to go, Richard? Or you want, and I'll.
John, we just had this question yesterday, so you jump on it.
Yep. Well, the answer is that under what we know about the soils and in the area that the agriculture has come up with guidance, and that hasn't changed since 2016, that gardens are fine as long as that they use clean water and not use contaminated water. Then they don't see any issues associated with harvesting any vegetable gardens or any other type of community gardens. There is one provision in the reclassification order that is if a new well is being drilled solely for agricultural use, they need to notify the Agency of Agriculture to ensure that whatever they're proposing to use that for is suitable, given what we know about the possible concentrations of PFAS in groundwater.
Thank you. And I think the last question I have is, you said that the reclassification was a part of our settlement. So there's really limited options that we have as far as this, but is there any wiggle room as far as you sort of spoke to the idea that there are limited options, but maybe some options as far as what this reclassification is?
Certainly, we have considered every option out there. I think the challenge we run up against is that it impacts everybody at where their well intersects the groundwater. What we know and what we're really defending against is that in the shallow groundwater, PFAS exists, right? And so there's no way to to effectively limit the size of the area or to put criteria in place that would change things just based on those facts. And so that's really what the challenge is. And so we've heard when we've been asked about whether or not we can adjust, but there really isn't a lot of sort of wiggle room there to be able to make that work. And then I guess the final thing that I would add is that while this was required as part of the settlement, it would likely been something that we would have pursued anyways, because it would have been one of the few tools that we had to ensure, as I said, that the public health was protected moving forward.
And Peter, if I could add to Representative Whitman's question, John and I have already received dozens of comments from citizens in Bennington and Shaftesbury, and we're already talking about changes that we can make to address some of their concerns. Our plan is to respond to every comment, post that both on the environmental notice bulletin and we have set up a webpage on our department webpage. So all the questions and responses would be there. And then the changes that were made to the draft order, which John drafted up, the language, to try and address these concerns. But we understand that there are some issues that we didn't take fully into account, or things we didn't completely understand. And so there will be some language changes to the order. And certainly we welcome everyone and anyone who has the time to review it and provide us with comments, and where we can make changes that make sense to take their concerns into account. I fully expect we're going to do that.
Great.
And then if I can just chime in, because I hate to be one of the DEC guys who says nothing the whole meeting, but one thing we committed to last night, and we would be committed even without this meeting, is really making sure we're there for the community, assuming this reclass goes through, so that we can help in situations to educate what it really means. Because what we've said is it's really the contamination that's driving this, not really the reclassification order. So if we can work with realtors, if we can work with homeowners, if we can work with banks to really educate them to say, there's a process in place, so this parcel will get clean water no matter what. If it's, drilling a well to the new standards, ending up with a POET, or connecting to a water line, we're not gonna disappear once this part of the remedy's over. And I think we've heard pretty clearly that's going to be needed moving forward. Again, depending on the outcome of the reclass, but we're committed to being here and helping with that education. We had mentioned last night, if we need to write comfort letters, we can do that. So we appreciate and understand the concerns, but we're not going away once this gets done.
I appreciate that. And if I'll just make a comment, thank you for accepting the feedback and being responsive to all of these questions. I know that there was a lot of uncertainty for people who say weren't connected to municipal water, but now they're getting this reclassification. But hearing kind of the refresher of ongoing monitoring of wells, if the levels do rise to that point, that St. Gobain is obligated to switch over to a POET. things like that, while still being cognizant of the concern that Matt brought up around, you know, an increased cost for any new well development. That does seem like one concern. But yeah, thank you all for being here tonight and continuing to be available for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Dane. Representative Morrissey, did you have a comment tonight, or are you?
Well, thank you, John. I just wanted to take the opportunity to once again thank the team, Commissioner Walk, as well as Richard and Chuck and John. You've been pretty incredible the last number of years. We've been to a lot of meetings together, and you're always there to walk the citizens through the challenging parts of all of this with the PFOAs, and I thank you for that. At the meeting last night, I mean, you understand the concerns, you know, folks are concerned about possible property values if they go to sell, but you're trying to answer the questions to the best and putting things in place. And I'm just happy to hear that we'll be having you in this area for, it sounds like, way into the future. So again, just wanted to thank all of you. And I know you've got the meeting next Monday night in Shasberry with the select board as well. So I'll probably see you for that one as well. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. So, and just one thing that occurred to me as we were talking is that a more expensive well would be more expensive to fix and maintain, I would assume. Is that correct?
I'm not a well driller. We probably have to check with them, but I don't think that's the case. The actual, once the well is installed, it'll look very much like an existing well. You know, it'll have the wiring and the pitless adapter and the hose that goes down to the pump. So if, lightning hit it or something, I suspect they'd pull the pump and replace it the same as any well. So I don't know if it would be more, but we could certainly, check into that with we're already trying to reach out to a couple drillers in the area, so we could ask them that as well and get clarity from the professionals.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Richard. It's really just the way the well's constructed. And once it's done, it's just like a regular well. It's sealing off, it's trying to seal off those contaminated fractures and keeping those out of the well. But once it's done, I don't see it costing more to maintain.
A deeper well will require a larger horsepower pump in cases, and those go up pretty, they do get much more expensive as you increase those sizes, but that's, again, that's not your issue.
Yeah.
I also really want to thank the way you guys have handled this. You recall, well, when this all started, I guess it's been 4 years, 5 years, I don't even know. But you guys were down here like white on rice, and you were here every step of the way. And really, really, really can't think of a better model for how a state or a government responds to these situations than the way you guys handled it. And not only the way you touched our community, but the negotiations with St. Gobain, I think, were just, it was hard for a lot of us, to not know exactly how that was all going. And it was going, and then it wasn't going, and it was going, but in the end, I think you've got a really, really, really good agreement with them. And I just thank you for that.
Appreciate that, Matt. We've certainly, feel like valued members of your community after the amount of time we've spent down there and the conversations we've had and the fact we've gotten to know people really well. So appreciate that. Certainly Richard and John, we make running jokes that they're going to run for elected office down there. So watch out for your seats. But yeah, no, it's been hugely important to us, and I give former Commissioner Alyssa Shurin and the team a ton of credit for just jumping in. As some of you may recall, even though I'm a native Vermonter, I was working on the New York side at the time, and watching my native state do it so much better than we were doing in New York and Hoosick Falls. And so it was great to come home and be part of this team, because it really was the example of how to treat these, how to just jump in. And I have to give, Saint-Gobain a fair amount of credit for the negotiation process, because I think what made it work is we were able to come to the community and say, here's where we are and what we're working on, what we think we're going to get to. We're maybe not there yet, but we're getting there. And that level of open communications with everybody is kind of unheard of in the negotiation world. And Saint-Gobain allowed that to happen. So I give them credit to making sure that the process felt as transparent as it could throughout the
Thanks again.
Okay. If there's no further public comment, I think we'll just leave it there. We would also, we'll direct people to the DEC website and the documents that are available there. And I'm sure that, as has always been the case, if you reach out to any of these individuals, they will be very responsive to your comment and question, or direct you to the right person. So, yeah, and can you give us the deadline again for the comments, just so that folks have that?
So May 28th.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being with us.
And I want to say that the website hasn't caught up yet with our change in the deadline, but that will be happening very soon.
Okay.
Hopefully tomorrow.
Yep. And if folks have questions and you get questions and you're not sure how to answer them, just send them our way. We're happy to answer them. Richard and John are responding to questions and concerns all the time, and we're happy to engage and see what we can help folks understand.
Peter, sometimes John has the responses to the emails done before the email's even sent. So that's how quickly he's responding. Not far too high.
Let's just say we get a lot of the same questions.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Thank you.
All right, so the next order of business I have tonight is the culvert and retaining wall on Park Street. So I wanted to just have a brief discussion on that one. There's an ongoing issue there where there's a culvert that goes under Park Street, right? As you're going out, I think we've discussed this issue before, but it's right at the Terradon and Pembroke property. And the culvert itself going under the road is sound and good, but on the west side, there's an old stone, it's almost like a wing wall, but it's a retaining wall / wing wall that prevents erosion, but is failing. Basically, at least one side of the wall is failing significantly, and a couple of blocks have come out of there. It's made of the same stone as the walls and things at the Park McCullough, and I think it was probably originally put in there by those owners when that was a private road, and that we just basically inherited that as part of the parks, as part of the responsibility for Park Street. But I am trying to investigate that and trying to see, what responsibility lies where in terms of the deed, the stipulations made in the deed and when we took over the road. But it's an interesting intersection, actually, of several different issues, because there is the water that flows through, right? So that's a concern. There's the wall itself, there's the culvert. There's a right of way, there's property owners there, but then sitting in the stream is a sewer pipe. And the sewer serves like 4 different properties on the Park McCullough area. And it's a private sewer line. It's not part of the Bennington municipal sewer system. It ties into the Bennington sewer system down at Water Street. But, I think what everybody would love is that if we were able to just get a historic preservation grant and completely restore the wall just like it was, because it is a beautiful wall, and it'd be great to maintain that. But I have been unable to find any kind of historical grant that is for structures like that. Whether it's, they're the only ones that I'm aware of are for like buildings in downtown areas and things like that. You can get transportation funds. Like if you have a historic bridge, you can design a bridge, as we did with the bridge on Prospect Street. We were able to, spend more money on the railings because they had and the light fixtures, because it went with the downtown aesthetic and met the village plan ideals better. But anyway, if anyone would like to try to help or I don't know, it's a difficult issue, but it's one that really does need to be addressed, because if a block falls on the sewer line, then that's definitely a big problem. And so we need to avoid at least that, but we also need to, maintain the integrity of the waterway as well, because that can be an issue as well with water backing up.
Yeah, John, did you say you were looking at, or who owns the wall? Like, is it a village
We don't
wall?
know.
Is it a homeowner's wall, or we don't know?
I don't know the answer to that question, because it, in one sense, because it was built by a private landowner to begin with, in some ways, when we inherit a road that was private, we just inherit the responsibility to maintain the road. And then if it's like if it was just an aesthetic wall and not a structural wall, then that, that doesn't really have anything to do with the culvert per se, then that wouldn't be the village responsibility. But if it is part of the structure of the road, so to speak, then, it's possible that we do have responsibility there. If we do, then again, it goes to another decision, which is, well, how do we repair that? I don't think that we have any obligation to repair it to a historical standard, but maybe there's a deed somewhere that says that there is, but I think that, we'd have to consider the costs of that project. And if it's $80,000 to repair it to the standard versus $20,000 to just pull it out and put crushed stone in, then that's something that we have to look at and make a decision kind of as a board, as opposed to, just a highway matter, right?
And you said we not really able to find any transportation grants that would fit.
Well, it is, I think we could say, if we could identify that it's that it's part of the culvert, and that, it's our responsibility to prevent this erosion from happening, then I think just the regular transportation grants would apply, a culvert grant. Or if that culvert was determined to be undersized. But again, so any transportation grant is only going to cover like a culvert and then a cement wing wall. It's not going to, a transportation grant isn't going to let us rebuild a historic stone wall.
Well, we used transportation grant money to fix a historic building.
Okay.
Didn't weren't there transportation grant money that we used at the depot?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we might have to be a little creative, but I think we could certainly, and again, I'm not saying it would work that way, but I think it would take some looking into what the grants. I think the thing with the grant is they kind of cap your money and you can kind of spend it as you want as long as it fits. So if we decide that we're going to restore it to historical regs, then that's how we're deciding to spend that money, which would also increase our share. But
Do you think it would, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Would it, I mean, is the best way of thinking about it is tied into to Park McCullough as an extension sort of that wall? It's almost, I mean, it's not part of that property, but that it's an extension of that. I'm just wondering what the angle would be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and it's outside it's kind of outside the area of downtown, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously I think our village plan is to always, preserve whatever we can in terms of historic value. But I'm not sure if getting that far outside of the center of town.
Mark, what about the Better Back Roads program? I mean, there's the Better Back Roads grants, there's a lot of that available.
Yeah, that's the one we went through for the back when we tried to get the sidewalks and the pedestrian and all that, right?
Right.
Isn't that part of that?
Yeah.
And the last 2 times we've tried for the Better Roads, they just call it the Better Roads now.
Okay.
It's all on a points program. And because we didn't have the road inventory done, which was supposed to have been done again, and I don't know if it ever was, applying for that, we did it twice. We applied for 2 different roads things under that, and we did not get it because we did not have that roads inventory.
Sorry, one of them was like a bike rack thing, wasn't it?
No, there were two. One was a culvert and one had more to do with roads, and I've got it in a thing behind me, but I don't remember. But that was not historic.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also look up for you the old, one of the depot ones is already done. And then there was a second part that got extended to do the roof. Yeah. I don't think that was transportation though, but it was.
Yeah, I think
it might have been under historic preservation.
I think actually we did get that money under a transportation grant, but it was extremely unusual, and it was based on the fact that it
was railroad.
Right.
Exactly. The train station potentially could still become a viable, hub again, and they allowed it, but it was very unusual. And I think the roof was part of that grant. My concern, actually, I think the elephant in the room is the sewer line that's going down through the culvert. And I think that needs to be addressed, and that will not be on the village's dime, because it is it's a private sewer line, and the notion that that's running right down through a stream is kind of alarming to me. they are a sealed, there's sealed Schedule 80 pipe. But as John said, one of those 2-ton blocks fall on it. Now you have an issue within water and streams, raw sewage. My suggestion, aside from any of the grant possibilities, is if the village decides they are responsible for that that wall, and I think that's still pretty unclear, then what will happen, because as I recall, that's a prefabbed square. It's not a culvert per se. It's a full open concrete
Like
square
a tunnel.
tube.
I think they just call it a box culvert as opposed to a round
Right.
culvert, but it's like a cement box that.
Much like the one that goes across Water Street, right?
But bigger. It's I mean, it's decent sized.
Well, the one on
A
Water
skinny
Street,
person could walk through there.
Yeah.
the one on Water
small.
Street, I believe, is bigger, isn't it?
They might be similar in size, actually.
Yeah. Not that it matters, I guess. Yeah.
At any rate, my thought is that if we're going to have to do that, it's going to involve full removal of the quote historic stone and a concrete wing walls put, connecting to that culvert,
Yeah.
and boom, problem solved at the least expense. And yet, even though that probably protects the sewer line, that sewer line shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And however that happened, I don't know, but I don't like the feel of that.
And it's
And what-
not like an all or nothing. I mean, we had concrete stamped in other, places, and that's not really a huge cost, and it makes it look really nice, to have.
Yeah, the other possibility too is we do the concrete wing below grade, and there's nothing that says we can't
Right.
put the toppers back on.
Right.
Find the good stone that's still, if we got a good base, and put that on, so from the road it wouldn't look like much has changed.
That's right. And
So there's potential that we could kind of do a hybrid of that.
and if I thought that the homeowners that are tied to that sewer were willing to find their own solution to that, I think the town would be more interested in stepping up and doing what you're suggesting, Mark, is a foundation of concrete form, and then topping it with that stone that's all in great shape, the big pieces, across the top.
Yeah, there's thinking, I went by there today, and the one section, as you're heading kind of down Park Street away from the McCullough house, the first wing it's ugly.
Yeah.
There are now three good sized chunks that have fallen in. So they're in the waterway right now. And I run there all the time, and I guess I haven't been paying as much attention, but it's significantly different than I think it was last year. So it looks like it's gonna, if we get a good heavy rain, it looks like it's really compromised down low. So if we get any kind of washout, it wouldn't take much to just send that whole thing a tumbling. So it was in much worse. On the Pembroke side looks almost perfect. I mean, I couldn't see any issues. It really is that, the point of entry side that is really, really deteriorating.
It's
And I think
because
that-
on the Pembroke side, when plows go by, it just falls over because the stones are on ground level. And on the other side, when they plow, the plowing pushes on the rocks because they're above ground. And because there's that drop off below, it's just pushing on that retaining wall, and whatever pipes they put in for good drainage just don't work in the winter. So it's just gradually getting shoved a little bit at a time outward or inward, whichever way. So that's where it's not structurally in a good place to survive for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that, you know, what's important though is that, you know, normally if a wall failed in that type of situation, it wouldn't be that big a deal. I mean, we have the equipment to deal with it. We go over there, scoop it out, clear the culvert, you know, it goes through, not a big deal, but you can't scoop in there because there's a sewer line. So we can't excavate if that wall falls in and cut, you know, in a storm. I can't, you know, you can't just go in there with an excavator. So even though we do have one now.
On that issue, we have to talk to all the landowners that are on that sewer line, because they'd all have to be involved with it.
Right.
I think there are 5. I think it's McCullough, the Highland Hall, maybe other McCullough. I don't think it's other McCullough. And then us, and maybe it's just 4. But yeah.
Tara, does it go all the way up to, yeah, to the McCullough
Household
house?
instead of, I don't know. I think they might be around the corner, so I don't think so. We had an issue last year, 2 years ago, where there was a blockage that required digging through our land to get to a clean out that roots had grown through, and it affected the 4 houses up the line because everything got backed up into their houses. So we've made some repairs on that line recently. You might talk to Pembroke because he knows a little more about the whole deal and where it's gone and where it's going. But yeah, if that's an issue, then it's going to be talking to the crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to, you know, put that one on the radar essentially.
I also talked to one of my college students, and she's involved in environmental history, and she said she could try and do some research to look for grants for historic stuff for that. So give her a little time and we'll see if that comes of anything.
Anything we can get, that would be great.
Yeah.
Have we, hey, John, might not be a bad idea to just see if we can get a couple of ballpark numbers put together. I mean, it's something that I think we don't have a ton of time to make a decision on, to be honest with you.
Well,
If I had to guess, something's gonna happen with some of the bigger rains we get. So we're gonna be forced to deal with it at some point. It might not be a bad idea if we have, I don't know, if we have somebody that would just give us an idea.
well, we did have V-Trans look at it as well as Norm, and I think that a temporary, you know, which would not necessarily be a solution, but something that apparently would help is if we can take the top row off, which would take a lot of the weight off of the lower part. And so Ron Pembroke has found the pinchers or the grabbers, whatever you want to call them, that can lift those stones. Because if you look at those stones, they have a little hole on either side where an old device, you know, pinches them from the side so you can lift them up.
Yep.
And we can lift those with the new excavator that we have without any problem. And so we can remove like a significant amount of the weight. Obviously that has to be done carefully, but also with contingencies in place, like, because those things don't always go the way that you want them to.
That, and if we take that step, are we then committed to being the only solution? So short of finding out if, once we do something, we've kind of committed, I think.
Well,
So
I'm
before we
not
do-
sure. I don't know if I agree with that or not, but I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I also think that if it falls in, then we're definitely on the hook at that point. So, I mean, not as far as liability, but we're gonna have to deal with it immediately.
Environmentally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Just curious, maybe we got a few numbers put together just so we can start wrapping our head around it and see.
yeah, I can speak to Norm about that.
Mark, I think that's a good idea. But I think in doing so, we need to make it clear that we are not necessarily doing this because it's our responsibility
Right.
to the cost, because I think that yet has to be determined. I think it would make sense with because we don't know who owns it, in the supposition that maybe the Lowrys own it, or the Park McCullough themselves. We get their approval to do the removal of those stones, and they get set aside up onto the property higher up for the time being. I think that's probably if we remove the threat of the ballistic
Collapse.
Yeah.
the thing that could shatter the sewer pipe or or greatly obstruct the stream, while there's a massive 5-inch rain happening. All of that would be a good idea. And then maybe even fashioning some sort of U-shaped steel plated,
Like a guard for the pipe.
that can go over the pipe,
Yeah.
in line with the channel, such that happens, it doesn't shatter the pipe. But
Yeah, another thought too would be just a mesh fence laid on top of the wall, just for kind of like they do along the highway sometimes. So if it does fail, they don't just run in. It won't stop it from failing,
just
or
hold.
from it'll contain it from just collapsing in on that pipe and the waterway too. As again, these are all temporary, short-term fixes until we kind of wrap our head around what the real solution might be.
Okay. Yep, I'll talk to Norm about that stuff and also look at funding options, and we'll try to proceed as quickly as we can. And we'll call, if there's something that has to be done, we can call an emergency meeting, but if it can wait until next month, that would be good. Although, so next month we'll have our regular business meeting in addition to the annual meeting, correct, Lori? Okay, she says yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
One other quick point. I think it would be important for the people who are on that sewer line to talk amongst themselves.
Okay.
As we say, because I don't know that if the state was aware of that current arrangement, whether it would meet meet the standards that as acceptable, and they might want to get in front of this, and that's not going to be a cheap thing. I don't even know how they would alternatively get their sewage from where they are to Water Street, but not down the middle of a stream. And they might want to be looking into that, because if it's very expensive, it could be shared by those individuals. And if we are going to be doing any significant changes to that, whether it's a wing wall or whatever, that would be the time that they might want to think about boring under all of that, below the stream.
Well, but what is doesn't the sewer come up to the intersection of West and Church?
Right, so there may well be a shorter path, right? I don't,
If you take the sewer from the intersection of West and Church out Park Street, I mean, it's not even paved really, a lot of that. So that wouldn't really be a huge sewer line to construct. I mean, to go to the private residences would be the same distance, roughly, but that would be a much better way to access sewer than going down through Pembroke property.
so that line was probably put in maybe before there was sewer available at the top of West and Church.
Possible.
Maybe they were on septic.
It definitely runs, what is that, south down Park Street from the residences, like presently.
What?
I believe that the sewer clean out, right? The line that backed up was running from the corner of Church and Park down towards south and not down Park Street. Is that right? Yeah.
I don't know, but we probably ought to get
Oh, so maybe it's I wonder if it's the pitch of ground then, and it would have required it to pump up to West.
Sure. I honestly don't know enough about sewer systems to say anything.
That is true, because I think
well, it's level there. It's certainly not uphill, but it probably isn't isn't downhill either.
Okay, well, yeah, I take your point that they would need to get together on that one, obviously. Okay, so I'm gonna just move on to the next item, which is a piece of art for the depot. Tom Fells has been using the depot to organize paintings by Frank Howard, and has generously offered the village actually a second work by him to display at the depot. It would be a donation to the village, but the idea would be that it would be displayed there at the depot with the other one that's there. I'm going to try to share the image with you all. I think I forwarded you the email, but just give me a second.
John, was the embroidery piece, that's by Frank Howard too?
That is my understanding.
Because it said Pennsylvania, so I wasn't sure if that was just Tom's piece or if it was a Frank Howard piece.
It's my understanding that was from a different creator.
Okay.
I think that was, I gleaned that from the original email. It was a little confusing, but I do think that the only Frank Howard is the painting.
The painting.
All right,
Which seems to me then, if that's the case, that would be the choice. Although I don't know why Pownell wouldn't want it. It's a view of the Pownell Valley, which is the most incredible view of anywhere in Vermont, but
that is a good one.
I'd be happy to have it.
So if the village acquires something like that, and if the village has other artwork of value, should it not be appraised, or should it not be listed on our insurance contents of that building?
Yep.
Because I'm not aware of any art that is. So if there is anything, we should kind of get a list of it so that I can annually get that covered in our insurance.
Yeah, I think that all should be, everything in that building should be inventoried, regardless of its value. And, Tara, I never know whether you're raising your hand to talk or just spinning wool.
Oh,
yep.
Cool.
That's nice.
So I'm sorry, I tried to enhance this, but I can't get it any bigger. But I think you're right. I just didn't read that correctly, but it just says that Tom bought this at an antique shop and it's early 20th century, but not connected to Bennington. So
Yeah.
But I thought in the original, I thought he said he wanted us to choose between two Frank. I don't know. I guess I took something different from his email. I thought he attributed both of these to Frank Howard, but the Pownell obviously has an area tie. The embroidery doesn't. But I thought he still attributed both of them to Frank Howard.
yeah.
Mm,
Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I just read it the wrong
I
way.
don't
But
think so.
yeah, I don't know. I'm a Pownell boy, so I obviously dig the Pownell view. And I really like that other piece. Is I think
The email says he bought it at an antique shop and it's early 20th century from Pennsylvania, not connected to Bennington.
That doesn't
Right, so-
mean it's not Frank Howard, but I
Right.
don't know that he was doing embroidery.
No, I actually, I'm going back to a couple emails before that email. And Tom just said that, that he's actually wanting to donate something to us as opposed to like Frank Howard donating it. So Tom has a collection of art. He's using our space to organize this. And so he would like to donate a work of art. And all of the works that he has are not all Frank Howard. And so,
Right.
you know, these are the two that are on offer and we should choose between them. It's not,
Yep.
so that's just the clarification there.
okay.
And I really appreciate the offer and
Yeah.
would most certainly be in favor of the Frank Howard myself.
So should we go with that one? Is there any objection to that?
I think it's more appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, I always lean toward anything that has more meaning for the people that are going to see it. And I think
And I'm sure we could, you know, maybe we can work out an arrangement for a temporary loan down to Pownell if they need it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so great, thank you for that. We'll go ahead with that one. I had a few things that I also added to old business, which would be, can we get an update on the website, Erin, or is there one?
I did hear from Courtney at 6:30. So she said that she can start in earnest the week of April 26th. So she's had a lot of projects and she's finishing up some things. So just has not had any time to start on it. One thing that did come up is we got a flash drive from Judy Brower with a ton of photos. That was the easiest way for Judy to get it to us because I think there were so many. Courtney is asking if they could actually, I think there's a reason why maybe a flash drive isn't the best way for her to get them, and is wondering if maybe we could upload them to a Google Drive or a Google folder. Is that something Alana you think might be able to do?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I'll get that to her. I'll email her and see if she can do that.
And I think I put the pause on sort of, I was thinking about historical things when I was thinking about the village, but that really isn't what we're looking for here. It would be actually more current photos to sort of highlight that this is our municipal website that people should go to for the, you know, the meeting minutes and announcements and things like that are going on presently, with, I think, historical stuff mixed in and links to the fund website and things like that too. But I don't want to reinvent the wheel and try to be the collector of all things historic, because I just realized very, very quickly that there is a ton available and everybody wants to share their historic photos. And there's plenty of outlets to do that with the museum and, you know, and the fund and a bunch of things. And so that's already in place, and we shouldn't try to recreate that. We should just link to that and sort of be partnered with that, I think. So there is we have a grant. We just submitted a grant for, let's see, I think we received a grant for a culvert on River Road. Mary, is that, or I don't know if Mary knows this or not.
No, I'm not aware of that at all.
Okay. I
I
think,
knew we had put one in eons ago.
okay, I think we've got that. And then,
Who has it? Who received the notice of award?
I think I got an email from Jim, but I'll see if I can forward that to you.
Okay,
Would
Yeah.
that
that have
was
been,
one of those better road projects that we did
right?
But I mean,
with Jim's help.
that's like a, 5,000 or
Right.
less.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't huge. But it was, I mean, it was a pretty significant one. As I recall, it was, might have been closer to 10, but maybe it was only 5.
Yeah, I think what he said was that we were okay to go ahead and do that because that's a reimbursable grant. Is that right?
It's been a while. I'd have to go back and,
I think we go ahead and do it and then we submit for funding after.
well, because remember, there was that other kind of grant thing like they did for, on our road here, on Overley. Remember, there was another little thing that Norm did the work and then we got a couple $1,000 back on. I wonder if it's that type of thing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. On the ditching, you're saying.
Yeah,
Right, because I was just gonna get to the other thing I just wanted to mention is that we have put in for a culvert grant for Overley as well. because
okay,
the culvert at the bottom of Overley just before the train tracks
right.
has had beavers in it again now twice, and they've kind of destroyed the culvert to the point where the water is going through the middle of the road in a hole in the middle of the road, and it just goes down in, and you can see that it's eroded all around the culvert instead of, so we're seeing what is available to replace that culvert. The initial work's been done to see what type of culvert it should be, and it's large. It's like a 12-foot culvert that is required to be in there because it's a wetland and it doesn't flow from one part to the other. It's waterway on both sides. So it needs to be really wide and open to allow that natural wetland area to kind of just settle on both sides.
How do you keep the beavers out of that?
Well, that you don't, I guess you wouldn't have to if it's so big that, I don't know.
They'll dam that up. Sure.
I think yeah, it's possible. I don't know whether the thinking would be that there would be some way to keep them out or that it would be easy to clean out because it's so
Right.
big. So,
Have time to notice.
right. Okay, so that's something. And then you had asked me to get an update on the Vertex tower on Bennington College after the last meeting. And I talked to Andy Schlatter and he said that Vertex is on schedule to start construction with that in June, as far as that's his understanding from them. So we should be seeing that happening this summer, and that the specifications are that it wouldn't be that long of a project, so it wouldn't be a multi-year project. It would be done by the end of the summer or the fall.
And Aaron, do you know the new location? I know they moved from the top of
I think it's if do you know the Davis Alumni House on the campus?
Yep.
It's I think it's sort of, if you followed that back, maybe, you know what, I don't know enough. I think it's over in that area.
Yeah, that was my sense.
Yeah.
Kind of where the fire was the other day.
Yep.
Oh,
right there. Yeah,
I didn't know about the fire.
Oh my God.
that was another
How did I miss it?
meant to mention is
Because
that
you're over there at the Frost House. You don't know what's going on.
I'm at my house a lot, but at the Frost House too.
By the way, people, don't burn right now.
absolutely not.
It is so dry. And that's not how this fire started, but my wife and our neighbor were walking in the short Aldrich in the pines and saw a fire and called the,
Oh man.
and it spread and it spread and they evacuated actually the Davis house.
Oh really?
And you know, it was potential to cause that other barn to burn there, the barn and the but yeah, it's dry out there, and don't burn.
It's illegal to burn right now too. There's a burn ban in effect, so you know, respect that. And you know, if you're doing what you should do and calling to get a permit, they're going to tell you no right now, which you know, just wait, because I'm sure we'll get rain at some point, and then you can take care of things. But you got to
Traditionally, every spring there's a burn ban until May 15th usually.
Yeah. So just be patient, or take it to the dump, which is free.
Yep.
Okay, so that was the Vertex update. I know. Yep, and we have the treasurer's report. Yep, let's go ahead with the treasurer's report. Sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, next time I'm not going to graciously defer. Okay, I have two important things. One, first of all, it should take just a minute. Whoever, if you have your 2019, I know this, maybe you can't read it this way, report. If you look at page 12, which was the trustees report, whoever has the original Word document of this, I thought I needed a PDF. Whoever has the original Word document for this, I would like it, because if you have this report that says for the year ended 2019, I need the page 12. It shows up on page 12. And
I have it, Mary, and I can forward that to you after.
Good, good. That will be appropriate. I will just make a few minor edits to this, then send that to the trustees. And this is what I would like to put in place to complete the 2019 audit.
So it's the trustees report from the 2019 book.
Yes.
Page 12.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Okay. Yep. Second thing is, I also, and again, I apologize, I just sent tonight, but it's the proposal for the EV electric vehicle charging station. Subsequent to last meeting, Norm, Ben Hewlett, two gentlemen from Green Mountain Power, and the gentleman from the railroad, we all kind of met together, and the gentleman from the railroad was on FaceTime, agreed to the spot. This was what I had reported, that the tree, or at least talked to John about, everyone agreed on the spot, which is basically where we had submitted in the application it would go. But that big tree that has those long potty things, that the Green Mountain Power requested that come out, because they are going to be replacing a pole, and it's going to be a bit nearer to that tree, but it's also going to be a little bit higher than the existing pole. I don't know, Norm, whether you followed that up, or John, whether you followed up with Norm on that. But that is where the charging station is going to go. So to that end, I need to order the charging station.
Mary, just back up a little bit. So, not to be the Lorax here, but so the charging station now is going to go out on the road.
No, it's not going to go on the road.
Well,
It's going to go up by there's a concrete pad that's going to be installed. The tree does not have to do with
I get
the
you.
charging station.
It
The
has to do
tree
with-
has to do with Green Mountain Power
I get you.
and installing the new pole.
And I'm okay with getting rid of the catalpa or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I think that's what it is. But that should get passed by the tree wardens in general.
That's already been done. I talked to Jeff. He put, just for your information, he put up a huge fight with that, and
Yep.
Rightly so. It's not, that's a tree that we should be trying to save any way we can, which I think that in this case, we did do our diligence there and tried to do everything we could, but that just having, with what they're gonna do to the tree, it's just not, it's not worth having a quarter or a half of that tree left, standing there. It's better to just take it out and plant something else new.
Agreed.
And Jeff finally did come around to that and said, I understand, and I'd love to be on the other side of what's going to go in there afterwards, and we'll make it look nice there. And obviously, we're all working toward the same goal with the renewables anyway. So
Good. That's all I wanted to. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
So let me go back then to the proposal to purchase the level 2 charging station, 1 station, 2 ports.
Yep.
Okay. We have, I sent the quote out. I don't know, John, if you want to share it on your screen, if people don't have it, or if you want me to get it on mine somehow.
I did make you a co-host, so
I
you
have
can
it.
share if you want to,
Okay, let me see if I can do this real quick.
or I can, it's just as easy.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen now. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my desktop. Okay, here we go. Do you see that?
No,
It says I'm shared.
Lori.
Is anybody seeing that?
No, no.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, here. Files. It's not finding my files. I'm looking at it.
Is anybody else? Did you download that, or did you look at that? Any other? Because I have it open.
Okay, then if you can just look at it, maybe it's easier to do that.
Or maybe I can share it.
That was, I see.
Yeah.
No, Matt, you're not a co-host, are you?
Oh, no. No,
Well,
I'm
then-
not.
So while you're doing that, we have $7,000 in the grant for the EV truck. There it is. We
There
have
it is.
$7,000 for the EV charging station itself. The village then has to kick in 10% above the grant. So
You mean
this is kind of like bare bones. This station is what was included in the grant. This station is also what Bennington has, but an older version. So the station, the cloud plan, which is and on page 2, I'll explain that in a minute. It's each year there is a cost to I guess to keep monitoring it, to keep getting the reports, keep knowing what's happening. And that's all the guts of it. Then there is an installation, which is a one-time cost, the shipping and tax. So to get this here on site would be $7,600. On page 2 of this, the networking, which is that cloud thing. That's every year. Every year that you have the charging station, you have to have some way of knowing what's happening with it. Since we have 2 ports, it is this price per times 2. The reason this is included here is obviously if you upfront more than 1 year, your per year cost is a lot lower. The problem is, well, maybe not the problem, but the issue right now is we only have the grant for the first year, nor did we have a budget right now for ongoing things. So to my mind, we stay with exactly what is on page 1. And for this year, acquire the charging station. However, it is up to the trustees to decide whether you think we should save money down the line and spend a little bit more now to get additional years of the cloud plan, of the network plan. Now, this station itself, the modem that will come with it will be good until they go to, what is it, 6G or 7G or something like that. And then at which point there might be a few $100s to upgrade that. But with this network, you'll be able to see all the usage, the frequency of usage, the length of usage. The grant requires that for 1 year, the village cover the cost of the electricity. With this network. When we get to year 2, we have many options of whether you charge people for usage, whether you charge people a flat fee, whether you charge people nothing up till X. And I'm not even going to try to get into it now, but there's a lot of different iterations of choices that we'll have. Now, this only gets the thing in the ground. This Assure program is basically your bumper to bumper warranty on it. If we wanted to actually have this bumper to bumper, which Bennington does not, it would, unless you purchase the 5-year plan, in year 1, you have to pay $599 plus your $740. And then in subsequent years, you can pick however many years you want to extend it. Or you just pay for parts if something fails.
Mary, is that a sure 5-year, when they say $499 per year, is that also times 2?
No. So that would be a total $2,495.
Right.
You would not pay the $599, but you know that you would have it for 5 years. Now, that said, we wouldn't have the network for 5 years. So,
that's just ensuring the the touch screen, all the things that can go wrong with that.
Right.
I imagine any damage if somebody runs into it would be,
If there's vandalism or something like that.
that would be carried under our own insurance, I would think.
It probably could be. Like I say, Bennington does not have that plan.
Well, I don't care what Bennington did.
Well, I'm just saying that because they haven't had any problems with theirs.
Right. But the network stuff, the 5-year,
I mean, it's.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is, because we do not have a budget, we go ahead with $7,597.30. And we get this thing put in now.
And we
Then
get 7,000, and we get 7,000 back.
We have $7,000 that we get
Right.
back out of
So
this.
we pay $600, the thing's
Yes.
installed, soup to nuts.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Yes. we take the risk that if there is any part or labor to repair any parts, we would have to take on that cost. And then we get to look at it from whenever this gets installed for probably a good 6 months before we're looking at our budget. We will have either one of you, should you choose to do it, or if not, you can assign me to be the administrator of the network. We'll be looking at who's used, you know, when it's used, what it's used, how long it's used, a number of different things that we can do. And oh, by the way, if we find it's heavily used and we wish at some point to put in another charging station either there or elsewhere, this network is scalable. And so it would apply to another station elsewhere should it be put in. But that's an aside. So anyway, that's what I think we should do. Get the station, get it in, get it on site, use it for 6 months, and then appropriately budget what we think we would want to do. And at that point, I think if we do want to keep going, we would do at least a multi-year plan, at least for the networking, and take advantage of the small savings there.
Okay.
And assuming we have no issues, then you don't invoke the bumper to bumper warranty. You can always add that in year 1, in year 2.
You know, why are we already getting discounts on this?
Because it's a municipal, we're a municipality.
Okay.
And to be honest, you know, it may be like list price, but who pays list price?
So does that mean that because it's listed at $329 on our bill, but we're only paying $559 for the 2, but then on page 2 it's saying $329 for a year, and then you're saving
For one, that's per port. We have 2 ports, 1 station, 2 ports.
Right, but are we gonna get additional savings?
No, that's it.
How can we get it this year, though? You said it was municipal, right?
No, I thought you meant the discount. The discount between the $7,210 and the fact that we get it
We're getting it for $6,400.
for that, yeah.
But this would be $660 though, and we're only paying $559 for 2.
Yes, but according to next year, it would be $329 times 2. It would not be the discounted price.
Well, maybe we can haggle.
That's entirely possible.
Yeah. Bigger price, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think we go with that.
Okay, so then either if it's appropriate for one of you to make the motion to accept this and authorize me to electronically sign the acceptance of the quote.
Yep, I did.
Well, I think it might be worth further discussion prior to that.
Yeah.
I would make a motion to allow for us to move forward, but I think there could be a discussion prior to that regarding these terms.
Okay.
Maybe not. Mark?
Terms? What do you mean terms?
No, just the
Is there any
rates,
further
prices.
Is there any,
The year 2 pricing?
Maybe, yeah. Or
I will ask that.
you know,
is
this
there-
is set up.
is there any further discussion on this?
No, it seems to me like we're already committed to doing this. We've got the grant, it's gonna go in. And then the next discussion would be really after the first year.
Yes.
So, yeah, I agree with that. If that's what you're talking about, Matt, we definitely should, you know, before we jump into any long-term agreements for warranties or service plans or anything else.
Right.
But in terms of right now, I mean, we've got the grant, we're committed to putting in, there's not a whole lot of,
Mhm.
if we don't accept the bid, we don't get the unit.
Right.
And they know that we've got the money, you know, they know that we've already getting the first year. We're getting it put in for free, basically, minus, you know, $600.
And that would be the ongoing cost. It's $550 per year ongoing.
Plus,
Excuse me, 600 and
plus the electricity, should we decide we're going to provide it, or the other options.
and the network reporting will show exactly what's used.
Whether it's being used.
Right.
And I think we ought to be looking at putting solar on the top of the train station, you know, feeding it to the grid so that so that we're paying, so that we can provide that.
Or put it on the ball field, put it on that and somewhere in the ball field on that roof. It might be easier to do that than do something on the depot. Wouldn't you have to have the railroad weigh in?
Yeah.
They get broken there.
Yeah,
Things get broken at the ball field.
yeah, baseballs and solar panels don't typically mix.
Ah.
I have a lot of base. Yeah.
Well, no,
It's a
trust
lot
me,
higher than my house.
trust me, I'm all for finding some way to put solar in, even if it's a standalone grid somewhere and the
Well,
credit is fed back through a net metering.
We're looking at it at the school right now, and it might be that will provide more, you know, that's something we could buy off of, or
Yep.
whatever.
We also got an inquiry from Woodstock about a municipal net metering project. So Mary, if I could forward, I don't know, were you on that email from?
Yes, I responded a little bit to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
That's okay.
got a lot of, I'm swimming a little here at this
A
point.
little busy.
Okay, so
So anyway, that's all I wanted to cover. Those two things to me were the most important. But I do want to go ahead and get this done. We had until July 1st to have the project completed. It should not be a long wait to get this. We should be able to get the project done by July 1st. The next step is to get back with Green Mountain Power and find out when they were planning to put in that pole, which was supposed to be, you know, within weeks, not months. But if need be, I can get an extension to complete the project, still within the grant.
So do you need authorization to go ahead with this, maybe with some questions asked about the second year?
I will definitely ask about whether that discount extends into the second and subsequent years, but the PDF that I sent you here, this proposal, the way they do it is they send it to you and then you go and electronically sign it. I can always have them resend that to one of you to electronically accept. That's fine too.
I'm fine with Mary signing.
Okay.
I'm fine with authorizing Mary to sign, but as part of the motion, I would like to have that as part of the motion. So
I will have the answer on year 2.
Did Matthew or Mark want to make that motion to authorize us to spend the $7,597.30 to proceed with this and give Mary the authorization to sign for it?
Moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Great, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. I'm glad we're moving forward with this project. And something that might make you feel better, Matthew, or not better, but make you feel good, is that the railroad is going to be paying for the removal of that tree, and they were told that that was their responsibility and they said that they would pay. So,
Fantastic.
Oh, I thought Green Mountain Power did. Then that's different.
yeah, no, I think it was, Norm
Ooh,
told me it was the railroad that said they would pay.
even better then.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Let's see, one more. And Mary, anything further from you?
Nope, just take a look at those reports, and if there's any questions on it, just give a shout.
Okay, I know it's late, guys, and I apologize. Sorry. I did really want to just formally acknowledge and recognize the passing of our dear friend and colleague David Monks,
Yeah.
and that David was a resident from Shaftesbury ID and North Bennington since the 1970s, I believe, and his contributions to North Bennington and the Bennington region are really immeasurable. I think a simple Google search can direct you to many projects, accolades, and contributions of David. And when I joined the trustees, I took over for him and soon learned how inadequate I was going to be at trying to fill his shoes by him, setting up meetings with me and handing over his files, which were many, and drives, and the way that he approached grants was just incredible. As an engineer, he thought about the application, he thought about the completion of the project, and then the wrapping up of the project, and made sure he had everything lined up. And I have tried to write grants more like he wrote them as a result of taking over for him here. So I just really, really appreciate that. And there's so many things in the village that have his hand in them. And I look forward to, I'm just making a comment at this point. I think that the village and the trustees will continue to honor him in various ways, but and as we go forward, but I just thought I'd mention that in the public meeting, at least, just to say how difficult that is to lose somebody that is just so vibrant and funny and personable, and I'm sad that I'm not going to be able to have one more conversation with him.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Thanks, John, for that.
And is there anything further for tonight's meeting, or?
But I'm going to make it really quick because I know we've been going a long time. Just a little follow up on that wiffle ball group and using Wellingfield I brought up last. I've got all the dates they want to use it. I'll send everybody an email so they know they're up there. They started, I talked to Norm today. They're up at Welling. They were going up there this evening to start cleanup. So they're starting projects up there already. They want to do the dugouts. They want to repair the bleachers. So I said they have the workforce, and I told them that I would be kind of going between them and this board. Just obviously, if they're going to get work parties together, I'm sure we can find the money in Park and Rec to supply whatever supplies they need. They're also going to take over some of the mowing there because they realize that they're going to want to mow a certain way for a certain part of it. So I'll touch base with Norm, but it's a very excited group who are very passionate about what they do, and they are also very community minded. So I think it's going to be a very nice partnership.
Great.
Thanks, Mark.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, Aaron, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Mary, I dream? I think you, I know Green Up Vermont Day is May 1st. And I just wanted to put that out there. I think will Norm, I know you can get bags in Bennington, but I think Norm, you said will there be bags in North Bennington too available?
I don't know. I was asking whether North Bennington was gonna do anything specific because I drum up some
Oh,
volunteers.
Sorry,
Norm
I'm losing it.
replied.
I just read an email from Linda Bermudez in Bennington, who said North Bennington's highway team will pick up the bags once filled on Monday, May 3rd. Oh, I guess I don't know if they'll have bags. Okay,
No,
sorry.
but there was an email that from Norm that said I just ordered
Okay.
the bags.
That's what I thought. I thought I remembered
that from
some.
Norm. So
Okay,
it sounds like he's ordered the bags and they'll be here shortly.
Okay,
Okay.
but
you.
is the village going to organize anything to say we'd like ABC done?
I'm happy to help with that if there are places. It seems like there's a lot of trash around.
Yeah,
I've noticed a lot of trash, so I think it.
Anywhere and everywhere, wherever.
Yeah.
I know I helped with our Rotary one time and we,
Yes.
and some Bennington's college students, but we were in Bennington and I don't want North Bennington to get left out. There's plenty of places I think we should do, but it's safer if you have an organization, something organized to say, well, work in teams and start, this team does this road, this team does that road.
I'll also send it to the college. I don't know what they're able to do, how far away from campus they can go, but I'll make sure to send it to them. But I'm happy to help organize if folks know of places that are particularly bad. You could let me know.
Is this something that the North Bennington Roundtable might get behind? Like get all of the businesses organized to help do or recruit some people?
That
Put
would
it
be
out
great.
there.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. We, Aaron, do you have the email to forward that? Or
Oh,
that-
the North Bennington Roundtable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just yeah.
Yeah, I have the info from Linda. I'll put it together and then I can let folks know.
Even if there's something that says everybody, coordinate, everybody gather at X spot at a certain time and then go out in your teams from there.
I think that's how we did it a couple of years ago, Mary. We started at the college and
Yeah.
okay.
And if you do, there's that whole, what is that, Madison that goes up and around? Yeah, that's pretty skanky.
It's bad. That's where I keep noticing. It's
Yeah.
really bad.
And then, it goes from there and then 67
Yep.
goes into town that way and all up Water Street and
Yeah, all of it.
Yep. Okay.
It'd be nice if Rod could get his crew down there at
Mhm.
940 Water Street to
Yeah.
get out there and clean up some stuff.
Good luck with that.
Okay.
That's Saturday. That's a Saturday, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I work, but pretty supportive of the idea.
Mail's got to go through. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sorry for the long meeting tonight, but we got some good stuff done. Don't forget about our annual meeting on the 15th at 10 a.m. At Lions Park, and we'll try to, we'll send emails about how that will work. The procedure of how that's going to work, because that's not something that's needs to be on the public record, but amplification and chairs and stuff like that. We'll work all the details out.